All right, welcome to the demo. In this one, I'm going to be doing an urban landscape with some amazing brushes, and I'll go over my other materials in a moment, but these are Princeton Neptune. This is Next Gen Series 4750. It has a cat's tongue or an oval wash 1/2 inch. It also has a square wash brush, 3/4 inch, a number 12 pointed around, and a number 4. So these are the brushes I will be using for this demo. The paper is Fabriano Artistico. It is 15 by 11. I've got that adhered to a piece of Gator foam board. So that gives me a nice firm surface, a little bit of masking tape around the edges. I also have a little piece of 1x there that helps keep the board angled downwards. The palette is an Aqua Pro. The colors I will be using are Neutral Tint, Burnt Sienna, Cad Yellow Lemon, Cadmium Red Light, Alizarin Crimson, Yellow Ochre, Sap Green, Ultramarine, and then Cerulean Blue. Off camera, I have some water reservoirs. Not very attractive to look at, so you'll see me head over there once in a while to clean my brushes. I also have an old sponge there, so whenever I clean my brushes, I'll give it a little tap tap. That will remove any excess water. And then that keeps my colors from swimming in their wells. And a little bit of water management goes a long way in this medium. So that sort of helps me deal with that. I have a number 2 pencil, which I will use to put my drawing in, which I'm ready to do now. I'm excited to share this demo with you. So let's go ahead and crack forward. And then as I move through this tutorial, I'll share some other tips and ideas and things like that with you. I have a main building right in here, so I like to sort of start with the big shape first and then kind of move into the smaller shapes from there. So a little bit of perspective like so. That's maybe too much. And then it has another little building off to the sides in there. So it's sort of a corner basically. And then we have a sidewalk in here. On the corner here, we've got some umbrellas. So they will be sort of situated in here. So I will put those down very carefully with a ton of detail. And yes, that was a joke. My style is going to be very loose. I think that's conducive to watercolor painting. And hopefully you're okay with that. And then I've got a little crosswalk there. I'll have some figures crossing the street here. So I'll sort of map them out, get them in the general place they'll go. And then underneath these umbrellas, there's some tables, different things happening. And then I think another little figure sort of maybe crossing the street or something back in there. So all these other details I'll put in later on as the painting progresses. I find if I put too much information in there in the beginning, I tend to sort of start to do this watercolor or coloring book style where everything kind of gets tight and I'm staying within all the lines. And again, just the big shapes. Now for the initial wash, I'm going to use the square. So this is the 1/2 inch, I believe, or 3/4 inch square. And I'll just put a little bit of water down. It's got a little bit of contamination, I guess, in it, just from previous demos and paintings I've been doing today. I'll put a little bit of water on the palette, a little bit of cerulean, and kind of splash that around the sky. So even though I'm fairly loose, I'm sort of a fanatic when it comes to design. I'm big into design composition, values. And this particular design has a really light sky. And then we'll get into this kind of saturated color area in here where it's these yellow umbrellas. Everything else will be fairly tonal. So they'll be sort of dial back, sort of grayish, not completely gray, but they'll have gray in the colors. Now I've got some yellow ochres on the palette, so I'll just put that down. And then on the roof here, I'll go around these windows for now and just sort of kind of dot them in and just sort of get a little bit of these grays going. I'll go underneath the umbrellas for now, and then I'll take some blues maybe on this side. And let's do some crimson, browns, some neutral tints over in here. And I'll get some more of that neutral tint, umbers, browns, and I'll put in a little streak color here. A little crosswalk in here, like so. I think that'll kind of be a nice little lead in to the painting. And I'll put a little bit of color down, so I don't want my washes to be too stiff. So I don't want them to look too stale and flat. A little bit of yellow ochre, and then some cad yellow lemon in there. And then that'll pretty much do it for the initial wash. So if you've been around watercolor for a while, you probably know the initial wash is going to dry back quite a bit. So I'm going to lose a lot of this color just because I'm painting on dry paper and it's very thirsty at this point. So that's going to absorb a lot of the water. It's going to absorb a lot of that pigment. And all this majority of this color here, again, about 30% or so, is going to be lost. So the initial wash, I think, is a time to really let the medium do what it wants to do. I'm a big believer in allowing watercolor to sort of fuse and allow gravity to pull the colors around and mingle them. I think at this stage, if when I try to control things too much and get washes to do a certain thing, then I sort of lose the magic that watercolor has to offer. So this is a good time to let these washes do what they want to do, and then we can come back later on and work with whatever it gives us. So we can come back and add darker colors and stuff and start to chisel things out. But at this stage, to try to control it would be sort of pointless, So I'm going to dry this off camera, and then I'll be right back. All right, so I've got it all dry, and at this point, I need to add another layer. And that's going to be probably starting with the building and then working my way down. So I'll take a little bit of this yellow or ultramarine blue, a little bit of the neutral tint, maybe a touch of crimson and ochre. I have some test paper, so I like to sort of test everything before I do it, just to make sure I've got a value that is in the ballpark of what I'm looking for. I think I can push that a little bit darker. Alizarin crimson is a very intense color, and I totally overdid that. So I'm going to put a little more blue over here. And I think this something like what I have here will work well. Let's go one more time. So I think, yeah, we've got something that'll work. So I'm going to start on the shadow side here. So something like that. And then I'll run a little bit along the front here. The precision, I guess, will be right here where these umbrellas are. So I need to go around these a little bit. So something like that, just to get those tops nice and clean. And then on the right hand side, I'll probably push this building more towards a yellow brown since it's in sun. So something like that for now. And I'll use a cooler blue over in here for this building. So something along these lines. Again, this is sort of all in shadow over here. None of this is even part of the main focal point. So I don't want to get too fussy with what's happening there. Then we've got some detail. I'm going to go a little bit darker here. So I'll just take some neutral tint, a little bit of blue, and just sort of carve out a little bit of detail there. And I can even kind of suggest some windows. I'll go a little bit darker under that edge. And I can sort of take, well, I had this, what's nice about this cat's tongue is you get this lovely point. And you get the broad side of the brush too. So you can really get some nice, interesting strokes with a cat's tongue. Really interesting, a nice brush to work with if you use all sides of it especially. So yeah, something like that will work good. I'll rub a little bit of that off towards the top. And I'm going to come back and just sort of chisel that out right in there like that. All right, that's probably enough for that. I'll take some of these warm hues for now and just kind of play with a little bit of a few dots in this area. And now take some of these neutrals and then I can start to add some underneath areas to the umbrellas. Do some line work there for some poles, and then maybe start experimenting with some cast shadows, things like that. I like to mix up the colors a little bit. I don't want the colors to be too flat. So I don't like to use the same color too long, I guess. So if I find myself using the same color for a little bit, I'll generally will switch pretty quickly to another color. So yeah, maybe a shadow coming like this, maybe a larger one coming across like that. Over in here, we've got the figures crossing the road. So I'll sort of get something going, maybe a little dress there. So I'll drop few little red dots and strokes. I'll get a little bit of blue here, some ultra, and we'll get kind of a figure lurking here, walking across, maybe a little purse or something like that. That's good for now. I can probably get a little bit of skin tone there just to carve out the faces. And while I have that on my mind, I'll drop a few more in here. I can go back into these browns while this is drying. Timing is everything with watercolor. I think this wash is still wet enough I can go into it, but not so dry that it's going to give me a stiff edge. Even though that's a corner and it's going to probably be stiff in nature, I don't like it to be too stiff in my painting. I'm going to go to my pointed round now, dry it off really good, and I'm going to break up just some of this in here, just a few splatters, I think, and I can come back and make just some sort of detail out of that later on. So maybe in this area, I'll look at what I've got. So I've got some whites in there. So maybe I can do a little waiter. So maybe a little white shirt on that waiter. Maybe another little waiter in here. A little hair. I can even drop a few darker notes along this figure here. Let it bleed into whatever's there. Some suspenders maybe. So some more blues. And I'll just get a little shadow on this building here. So something like that. Just kind of suggesting things more than I am anything else. And again, this one's in not the star, so you have to be careful about how much detail goes on both of those buildings. It would really ruin the point of interest there. So I want to do some negative space painting for this figure, and kind of maybe do a little doorway there. I think this is drying enough. I can probably start to add some dry brush for some windows. So I'll take some burnt sienna, a little bit of cerulean. That makes kind of a nice sort of smoky gray. And let's do a couple of layers of windows here. Again, well, I'll suggest some sort of cast shadow or something on those for now. Okay, some tabletops in here, some more figures. Could probably even start playing with a little bit of saturated color, so some blue maybe. Let's go with maybe even a little red. Not too much. I don't want to compete with the dress over there. Let's see what a little bit of green looks like in there. So that's not too bad, but that should, just a few accent colors I think is all we need. And I really lost my figure's head here, so I'm just going to lift that a little bit. And I'll come back in and just kind of go around that. I think something like that will work. Did it again. My big old finger got in the way. So you can't really go into it much anymore. If you do, it'll start looking fussy. So I'm just going to drop a little red face in there. And I'll get some more of these ochres. I'm actually going to switch to my small number 4. Pointed round. So something like that. Maybe got a little shoulder line on that figure. All right, so at this point, it's easy. The easiest thing to do is to go too far, for me anyway. So I think what I'll do is I'll dry this off, and I'll come back and see if I can add some details. But I think what I can do, I can add maybe just kind of suggest an antenna, or something in here. Yeah, just to sort of connect the sky with the buildings. I think that's good. And I'm going to take a clean brush here and just sort of rub this a little bit. And get a soft edge in there. Yeah, something like that I think works pretty good. And I'll take some of this neutral tint, blue, sienna, and this. Maybe put a little more hair on this figure here. Yeah, so something like that. Again, a few dots. Jacket. Yeah, I think that works a little bit better. So I'll dry this off and I'll be right back. All right, a few highlights here. So a little bit of white on the shoulder lines. Can maybe even suggest a little sparkle on some glasses and different things that could be happening under the umbrella. Maybe even suggest a little figure in there. A little something on the windows there, maybe. A white shirt. Now I'll take the tape off, sort of one of those magical times. Not Christmas magical, but nevertheless, I get excited about this. Most of the time, the painting is going okay. All right, so I'll go ahead and sign it. And maybe suggest a few windows over in here to dress it up a little bit. And I'll just throw maybe another little dark in there. Something like that. And I'll do it. So hope you're able to take a little something from the demonstration. I enjoyed working with the brushes and certainly enjoyed sharing this with you guys. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again real soon.